Hey everybody, it's one of those days. Everything was going wrong. Just wanted to get a good half hour or so, 45 minutes of the sun going through partial eclipse. And I forgot a part, I forgot a cable, I had some camera issues. The telescope mount is somehow loose on this one. I couldn't use my normal motorized telescope because I forgot to order the smaller filter for it. This is a white light filter on a 12-inch Newtonian telescope, which I bought a long time ago. So there's no motor drive, which is fine. I was just going to keep positioning it and shooting it. But you know what's really funny is now I can't even get... Bear with me while I hunt for it. It's just if you saw all the shit that went wrong, it's just hilarious. This one stupid thing I did. I'm just trying to find the sun again. As this is not a solar telescope. It does not have a proper solar finder, which you can buy for, $50 to $100. I didn't do that. I don't have the filter for my motorized one, which would have been slam bang set up and let it run for an hour with no problems, etc., etc. But I don't know, it just wasn't in the cards. So if I can at least, I've got a few pictures, but if I can at least get the video to line up again, you guys can actually see what I'm trying to show you. I'm having a bitch of a time finding the disc again. Come on. Where'd you go, son? Normally you can use the shadow of the tube, and it's pretty dead on. It's also a bit windy out here. Yeah, it's not being nice to me today. I have to earn this one. So weird, I can't even find the disc now. All of the shadows lined up. It sucks too, because right when I started the stream it was in there, and then I slightly bumped it reaching for something and lost it. So these are the fun things you go through when you have all this crap hooked up and don't get it set up just right, and you're rushing around and you forget stuff, and other than that it's a clear day pretty much, like a little bit of clouds for a while. It cleared up. It looked beautiful. There's a nice big chunk taken out of it. You can see some sunspots with some nice penumbra detail. And I tried to stream this from my phone to my Astroatic channel, and of course I don't have enough subscribers now to do live stream. YouTube's so stupid that way. It's like I've had the channel for almost a year now, and I've had a decent amount of activity. You really have to wait for 50 subscribers to get me a live stream on mobile, and it's really dumb. Because I normally stream from the laptop, tethered, and it's not a problem, but for today I had to just grab the phone to get something. And I wonder if I zoomed in by accident. Maybe that's why. Hold on a second. Let me adjust for a minute here. This is now loose. That's not good. Now I've got phone off so I can browse quickly. Eyepiece all figured out. Still got about, I think, half an hour eclipse. So I was going to catch the whole thing anyway. I just wanted to catch a good piece of it. I think it has a half hour left or so. I have friends that went to Totality Zone and are taking all kinds of videos and pictures, so they're way more into it than I am. But I do like eclipses. I've been to a few of them, especially the total solar down in Baja, 99. It's almost 7 minutes. One of the longest ones in a long time. But that was the year Mount Pinatubo shot all the ash into the atmosphere, scattered the light, and actually didn't get as dark as it was supposed to get. Even though we're all the way in Mexico, it made that much difference in the atmosphere. What's going on? Why am I not finding it? Fine for the last stuff. Into view. So bizarre. And I was trying to collimate the thing, the mirrors on the primary mirror and the secondary mirror, and it's just like, it's close enough. So, and it turns out the images look okay without full collimation. I didn't bang this thing around much since I used it last. Although I was pleasantly surprised by the focuser slipping like crazy. And it was working fine last I used it from what I remember. So now I'm stuck using this manual pull up, push down screw lock method, real primitive, to get the focus and to hold it. Because the Crayford focuser is slipping big time. What the hell is the damn? I swear I'm just having a bad day. So that is locked in there. Let me make sure. Sorry, it's real exciting looking at the ground. Here's some not carpet, right? Some asphalt. I was trying to make sure that I got a lock on the. Okay, so I'm at the furthest zoom of that. That's good. I'm using a zoom eyepiece, and it's cool until you put a balance weight on the end of it, and it starts to pivot from gravity. You start losing your stuff. So come on, son. Where are we? Where the hell did you go? I'm at full zoom out. I should have a pretty big object. Too big. If I zoom in too much, I'll be like looking at sunspots and I'll never find this stuff. So weird. I'll do the skinny mode just to find this dumb thing. Come on. The joy of a manual telescope. It's great in the night sky when you know what you're doing, but during the day when you have no reference other than one bright object that's significantly dimmed from the filter, hopping your way around is not so simple. That's so bizarre. Why isn't that finding it? It's not behind a cloud. It's perfectly bright. It should be able to just pop out. Tells me again I should have invested in that stupid solar finder for $50. The only thing I can look through safely is the eyepiece with the filter on it. If I look through the regular finder, I will go blind. Okay. Unbelievable. I'm in so much trouble. It's a very exciting stream. Looking at the parking lot. Sorry, guys. Like I said, it was lined up right when I started the stream, and then I bumped it. I lost the object. Bitch. It's perfectly lined up there. Perfectly lined up there. Tricky thing is, even with the motorized one, once I get it set up, it would be easy, but sometimes to get it found without a shadow trick or a special founder you can't really use the computer because you still have to calibrate your position based on a known star or two. And since the only known star visible right now is the sun, that makes it tricky. You have these fun finders you can buy too, that a little built-in sun camera called a helio zoom or helio scan or something like that, and it actually will track your it'll track the sun for you, figure out where it needs to line up, and whatever camera or something you put in it will auto track and just follow the sun, which is very clever. So that's another thing I'm nice to get for stuff like this, so you can have a camera doing whatever while you're messing with the scope. And why is it not showing up at all? It's at the same focus that it was. And trying different cameras, realizing I didn't have all the parts I needed. So the cell phone was the way to go. Now, we get the most. Oh, wait a minute. Something else. Very silly. Very silly. I think it's right about that angle there. Oh. Everything's lined up. Focus is right. The zoom is right. All the way out. So I'm sure this thing. Oh, this got loose again. So now we're at 24 millimeters. This is set up at the right angle. It's not my day today. Not my day today. Ah, there we go. Ha! Now, but tricky thing is getting this camera in here without bumping it, because this mount is like a friction mount. YouTube's control of the camera is pretty shite. Can I zoom in there? Get a better view. There you go. There's a bite taken out of it. Now if I can lock this in and adjust a little bit more, you can see the sunspots there. So I don't think there's any dust. Yeah, you can see if any dots stay static on the thing, that's dust on the eyepiece or the mirror. Not mirror, but eyepiece. But you can see there's a small group almost in the middle of the sun. I've been looking at that one off and on. It looks very nice at the... I don't think I can zoom in on this guy and use it properly without losing focus, but maybe I can. You can kind of see it a little bit there. So you can see some of the dust on there. That's definitely a big spot right there. And if I could focus it better, you would see the umbra penumbra brightness difference. if I can do that right now. Let's see. Sharper edge on the disc. You can kind of see how it's fuzzy a little bit because there's the penumbra is the outer soft area, so kind of a gray versus the darker spot group itself. I'm also getting an internal reflection there. You can see that little circular thing I'm not sure what that is exactly, but hey, it's a camera bolted to an eyepiece. So this is the way it's going to be today. So if I zoom back out, you can see I'm pretty much at the magnification where the sun fills out the field of view. So I still have a nice big chunk taken out of it. There's just some smudges there either on the camera or on the eyepiece. And the auto camera is kind of doing what it wants to do, unfortunately. So I have, again, YouTube. I bitch all the time about YouTube's camera control. It's pretty awful. Just want to make sure I didn't put any smudges on that filter. This is kind of an expensive filter, so my plan is to get a proper filter like this for my portable scope I use for all the shows on AstroAttic. But I didn't have that ready, and I screwed up somehow getting all my shit together for the mirrorless camera I was going to use today, that I normally use for streaming for the night stuff. So here you go. So as you can see, it's moving. There's no motor on this telescope, so I have to constantly. What I was going to do is get a few decent shots over some time and stack it. Stack it to get it aligned properly, and then make a little animation. But since I got started so late, other than taking a few random pictures, that won't be a very interesting animation. So it's going to use the stream as it is to document it, along with a couple of pictures I took. So yeah, sorry again. Because it's an iPhone bolted to an eyepiece, you're getting reflections, you're getting weird artifacts, some halos and stuff. You're also getting not the best focus you could get, and you can see that when I zoom in. The terminator of the moon on the sun there is pretty clean. It's not super sharp, but it's fairly sharp. Again, I didn't 100% collimate this because I was in a rush. And off to the side, you get a little spot group. Right there. And it's windy out here, so it's shaking the scope off and on. And if you guys don't know about sunspots, it's funny because the incredibly hot regions of the sun, like most of the sun is, except the hottest part is ironically the corona on the outside of the sun. You see it in solar eclipses. But it's certainly very, very hot all the way through the sun, and even these sunspots are incredibly hot, but they're just enough temperature difference to appear black against the sun itself. That's the funny thing about it, is it's not a cold spot of the sun. It's just a little colder than the rest of the photosphere you're seeing right here. So this white light filter, you can only see the photosphere. So that means sunspots and not much else. You get into hydrogen alpha, into the chromosphere, and you can see the prominences on the edge. Looks like little flames flying off that could be like several Earths across. You can have prominences on edge coming at you that look like these kind of filaments, or snakes they call them. Kind of shadowy because they're wispy on edge. You also get granularity of the sun, which is showing the convection currents, columns of hot plasma going up and down in these magnetic loops. So it looks like it's grainy, like almost like laser light. You look at laser light, you get those grainy bits in the light. That's you can see all that in the chromosphere, and that's the next scope I was going to get is a dedicated H alpha scope. You can also add some other optics to it, but they're kind of expensive. So I was just going to leave it as a small dedicated H alpha scope, and then use my other scope with a white light filter like this, so I can do tandem. I could actually switch between cameras during the live stream, or just record them separately and put them together later. So those are really fun, but even the cheapest ones are pretty expensive. I mean, you're starting at, you know, for the price of a Mask 1, you can get a basic telescope for solar. That's pretty small and has some upgrade potential, but not that much. And then when you get dedicated solar scope with all the bells and whistles, where you can use bigger optics and swap out parts and make them custom, those get into the $5,000 range, $3,000 to $5,000 range, which is, you know, for something I'm only occasionally doing, I'm not gonna spend that much money. It's too much. If it was my only hobby, of course, it's no big deal. But so too many other hobbies with cameras and music stuff and microscopes and all that kind of shit. It's too much. But anyway, that's what you're looking at. A couple companies, Orion bought the one called the PST, which is the I'm drawing a blank on the name. It's personal solar telescope. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the name. Orion sells them. There's like a cheap one, the fancy one where you can change out the etalon, which causes some of the light blockage. And you can do a double etalon, so you can get this double stacking thing where you can actually have more detail, but also less light available. So it's a weird. You have to have you generally want to do that with a bigger aperture. These little 40 millimeter ones are pretty cool and portable, but you know, you can't do too much at 40 millimeters. It starts to get fuzzy, or you're losing details. You can't push it too far. But that's something I'm going to get one of those, and you can get one of those with some good upgrades for like around maybe 1,500, something like that, maybe a little more. Problem is, there's one company that makes the most preferred one for that size. They're custom ordered, so you have to order it and wait like 2 months for them to build it for you, maybe longer. There's usually a wait list. So we'll see how that goes. That's why I don't have one yet. I was going to get one knowing this eclipse is coming up, since I missed the last one. I was just doing some goofy experiments with pinhole cameras and stuff, and a couple iPhone shots of the last eclipse we had like this last year. But I looked ahead and I said, yeah, it's just a long wait list, and it was a lot of money I didn't have at the time, and so I will eventually get one so I can do more solar stuff, because I do like solar stuff. I used to go to the observatory at the local junior college where I went before I transferred. That actually runs some scopes donated by NASA that my club has access to, because we've been running that scope longer than I've been a club member. I mean, since the 70s, I think. Because I remember going there as a kid with my parents, and that scope was fully set up. So it must have been set up sometime around the 70s when they donated it. But it's a lot of fun. They have solar observing in the morning with like a $3,000 dedicated H alpha filter. It's like 0.5 angstroms, real high quality, real good separation of everything. The sunspots look 3D. They look amazing. And they, of course, all the granularity, all the prominences if they have any, stuff like that. And at the same time, they usually run a tandem scope in white light, so you can jump back and forth and compare the views. And even take pictures. Just digiscope, hold your camera up to the eyepiece and stuff. I got some really good pictures over the years. Just doing that, and now they're using the bracket like I have now, but actually hand holding it and just getting snapshots. Some of my best pictures I ever got of Mars were digiscoping on somebody's telescope up at Yosemite before I finally bought a telescope. And I was just hovering over his eyepiece at the exit pupil, steadying myself, getting the focus just right, and snap, snap, snap. And without even stacking, I had some pretty good images. So it's fun stuff. You don't have to get all crazy with this stuff just to get into it. Some of the stuff, there's a barrier to entry. Like I said, the H alpha scopes are like minimum $1,500 or so, maybe a little less. That's at Coronado. That's the one. Coronado is the PST scope brand. It was bought by Orion. They kept the name Coronado, but it's owned by Orion, which is a telescope.com. And the scope I'm using right now is an Orion 12-inch Newtonian. Awesome scope. I bought it, God, like 20 years ago almost. It's got to be about 20 years ago now. For about $1,000. Over the years, added accessories, filters, better eyepieces, a few things here and there. Still only about maybe $2,500 total cost, maybe a little more of serious stuff. Some goofy stuff I've been messing around with on it. And it still serves me very well. And even compared the optics of similar scopes that friends had at the star parties we had at Yosemite every year. I would borrow one of their eyepieces, this big, like, looks like a hand grenade, this giant, it's called a Nagler by Teleview. And it's just amazing eyepiece. It's like, I think they're like $1,500 just for an eyepiece. So I definitely didn't have one. But it's just beautiful, like wide field with some power, super beautiful view. And in my scope, it looked amazing. And they go, wow, your optics are really good. I say, hey, I just bought it from the store. And they spent a hell of a lot more on their scope than I did. And their optics really aren't that much better than mirrors and stuff. So I got really lucky with this scope. It's treated it well. It's been through a lot. And no need to buy a new one. There's a go-to feature on it, a primitive computer with some sensors in it that I've used on a few nights just to try out when I first got it. It had trouble calibrating. Once you calibrated it, then it was actually pretty good. You could actually point an object and even say, there's a what is this button? And it'll tell you what's in the center of your eyepiece pretty reliably. So it's like, let's see if it guesses this one. Oh, look, it actually got it. Stuff like that. It's fun. So for beginners, it was a nice thing to have, but I already had the sky mapped in my head from doing things manually for years. These are the club scopes. So when I finally bought my own scope so I could be mobile, take it anywhere, I was already, didn't really need the computer. But it is fun to look up stuff in the computer once in a while and find stuff I'd never looked at before. And if it's already calibrated and you just go boom, 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 it goes, the motors go and go point to point, I can be lazy. So I can see why people like to use them for star parties. But I still like manually doing stuff myself. And that's what's great about this scope with the full manual control. I'm just grabbing this knob on the front of the scope, and it's basically an alt-azimuth mount on a Lazy Susan. And you just basically go whip it around the sky really quick. I can go complete opposite parts of the sky and find something and people are already enjoying it while someone's still going with their motor across the way. So for star parties, it's very fun. It's super fast. I had trouble finding the sun earlier just because, they have no landmarks. I'm basically dead reckoning based on a shadow of a tube and no other thing to go off of except when the sun finally pops into view. Sorry I'm missing the chat here. It's kind of small on the screen. I can't really read it too well in this lighting condition. But I'm glad you guys showed up. Hope this is enjoyable to a certain extent. Although it could be so much better if I had my shit together and I had all the parts I needed and the scope wasn't freaking out. And I had bought that solar finder, which would have made things a lot easier, etc., etc., etc. But once I get the solar filter from my mobile rig with the clock drive, I can do this kind of stuff and more on random days here and there when the sun is doing. Because basically, you just take a piece, those aluminized Mylar glasses, which again, I can't find my pair of those either. I'm totally disorganized for this event. I normally have a little glasses case that I kept aside and put my aluminized Mylar glasses in it. I had the same pair of those glasses that are just cardboard for like 15, 20 years because I only use them once in a while, put them back in the case, and they're totally safe. I never perforated them, never crunched them up, never got them wet. And so the one pair of glasses that's like $5 lasted me forever. But now I misplaced it. Who knows what the hell it was? So again, back when I was looking at the solar telescopes, I should have bought a few pairs of those glasses before this event. So at least I have a pair, because it's fun to, without having to look at the scope, it's fun to just basically just peek up once in a while and see the progress naked eye, because you can clearly see this chunk taken out of the sun naked eye. Even this much you can clearly see with your naked eye. So I'm not prepared for that, of course. But you can actually just take those on a daily basis. Look up for a couple minutes. Hey, the sun's looking pretty good today. I think I'll set up. You don't have to go on some website, scour around what's the sun doing today and stuff. You can just literally just grab your glasses, look up outside if it's clear, see, oh, I can see some spot groups. Oh, nice. That's fun. Now you won't see the prominences, so that's a surprise unless you look up some website or you have an H-alpha filter and just start poking around. So once I get the H-alpha scope, that'll be a lot of fun too, because I can put it on the helio scan thing, and it will just track for me, like this, like my other thing tracks. I can put on that, or I can also mount it on my. I can piggyback it on my normal streaming telescope with the clock drive, and have both of them looking at the same object with different optics. But I'll have to buy another camera for that. And solar is actually better. H-alpha, since it favors the reddish color, the images get really, really red. And most CCDs and CMOS chips and stuff, they just get saturated with red way too easily, and you get mud. So what a lot of guys do, they don't bother using a nice camera for solar in the H-alpha. They actually buy a high quality monochromatic camera, and not only do they have really good clarity, but they don't get this blooming and this kind of muddy look you get from the red. The red's basically gone. You're just looking at contrast, and that's really what you want to see. It is fun to see the images in color through the filter. I've got years of pictures of those that turned out pretty well. But if you really want to analyze the shot and see how much detail you can see and how many, count the structures, and look for this thing called plage, and look for flares. You can the H-alpha is great. You can see all that stuff. You can see this blooming effect called plage. You can see the sunspots in pretty good detail. And again, the granularity of the sun is pretty impressive, because you just realize that's convection currents. It's crazy. So I'm not seeing any new spot. I think, is that one over there? Yeah, so you can see the dots that don't move when I wiggle the scope. That's junk on my optics. So right now I'm only seeing, at this magnification, I'm only seeing that one little spot group near the center of the disc. I could have sworn I saw someone I looked earlier, but it also could have been some dust. I didn't do the wiggle check. Yeah, we're almost done with the shoe. It's almost over. It's funny with that glare on the optics, that yellow glare, and in the mouth, it looks like Pac-Man with a yellow eye. Pac-Man going, ooh. So, anyway, this wasn't a total loss. At least I got something out of it. I hope you guys enjoy some of this, because it's really fascinating stuff. It's just, at this level, it's kind of a gee whiz. But just to realize that all the stuff that has to go just right for this to happen, because the moon is always going right by the sun this time of the month, or it's part of its cycle. It's just got to have that right lineup. And so this was a total. I think the last one was an annular. The moon was just a little too far away to be a total. So you just got a ring of sun at maximum coverage. I think I remember that correctly. I think it was an annular last time, which is still cool. So when I saw it last time, it looked pretty much just like this from here, because again, we're not in the path of totality or annularity for either of these. In fact, I don't think we got a total one for a long time. My first video I did with just a video camera bolted to the same setup, which I might never even uploaded. I should go look for that. It's actually turned out pretty well. I was working at the Palo Alto Baylands in the Nature Center, getting back to microscopes and doing demos and interpreting nature for the public and stuff. And I was like, oh, perfect. There's a solar eclipse later today. I'm already working there. It's beautiful out there. I can sit there and just enjoy the nature while I'm waiting for the event to happen. It happened pretty much 30 minutes after closing. So I had everything all ready so I can just go boom, 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 run out of the place, get to my car. When things aren't acting crazy like today, even this old scope that's kind of big and clunky, I can set up in 15 minutes, usually 15, 20 minutes. Get it collimated, get it ready to go. And then, so I was able to pretty much cover that whole event. It was just a partial eclipse. Was that an eclipse? Oh, actually, no, I got it all backward. It was a transit of Venus in front of the sun. That's what it was. So I got set up for that. That was pretty cool. And I was able to zoom in on the video camera. It has a screen on it. And people walking by go, hey, what are you doing? They go, what are you nutcase with a telescope during the day? What are you looking at? And I go, oh, check this out. So the screen, I could just show them the screen. They don't have to touch the scope. They don't have to look through the eyepiece and mess things up. And everyone got to enjoy the event and walk by. If you haven't seen that before, transits, those are really fun. There's a Venus transit then, and then my friends in the club have access to Lick Observatory up on the hill, Mount Hamilton nearby. Well, they kind of do research, but not the same because there's so much light pollution over there. They don't quite do the same research they used to do, but they still do plenty. It's part of UC Santa Cruz. But they have, they had an event, there was a Venus transit, and I was already on my way to LA that day to go to SIGGRAPH or NAM, I forgot what it was. And so I said, oh, you mind if I follow you guys up there? So I had to get up at like, I don't know, 4 in the morning for the long drive up Mount Hamilton, twisty road, to meet the guys before, because the eclipse happened right after sunrise. So you had on the back side of the hills behind Mount Hamilton. So you definitely had to be up there to see that. You couldn't see it from, couldn't see it very well from the ground because it was behind the hills. So from here, we have sunrise much later because it has to clear the mountains. When you're on top of the mountains, you can really see down into the early part of the sunrise. So we got all set up, got my pictures done. These guys were taking really awesome pictures with their more professional gear and expertise. Had a nice trip with that, and then went straight to LA from there to whatever event I was going to. And then had my scope with me because I was already planning to go to Yosemite on the way back to do some astronomy for several nights up at Glacier Point, or whatever I could get to if the road is closed. Like Washburn Point is a pretty good one. Actually, that's closed. You can't even get to Washburn Point. This is what's that other point called? Olmsted Point. That's what it is. Way across the valley. You can see the backside of Half Dome from there. But it's a nice open area, and if it's not too windy, you can still get a pretty decent view. Not as nice as Glacier Point, because Glacier Point is somewhat protected. It's not so windy there, if it is windy at all. Olmsted is very exposed, so if it's windy, you're like not only getting cold as hell from the cold wind whipping through there, but it's going to shake your instruments and stuff, so you're not going to get the most stable views or pictures or whatever. Here, we're in the last few minutes here. Look at this. It's almost gone. Almost gone. If you're in a group of astronomers, photographers, and stuff like that, someone always calls out the first contact, you know, blah, 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 all the different stages. So in case you're not paying attention, you know when it's happening. And of course, because they're not totality, I'm not going to get Bailey's beads or diamond ring effect or any of that cool stuff you get from a total solar eclipse. But it's still cool to see a chunk taken out of it. Let's get that spot group in there so you can finish with the spot. Like I said, I could mess with the focus a bit more, but at this point it doesn't matter because the image is shaking with the wind, and it's not a prime image through a bolted on camera anyway. Oddly enough, bolting my iPhone to my microscope is amazing. You know, if you don't have a decent camera, you can insert into the trinary tube. You can actually bolt on an iPhone and get amazing stuff. So bolting on cameras is not a joke. I've done it with spotting scopes for years as a poor man's telephoto lens, and got great pictures of birds and stuff from far away. Now we're almost there. Almost finished. Almost imperceptible dent in there. Adjust it one more time. It should be enough for it to finish. The damn Earth keeps on rotating. I think it's done. I have an app that actually tracks all this stuff, but I can't look at the app since I'm using the app to stream. But there you go. I think it's done. Or so imperceptibly still there. Can't tell at this view. But I think that's an eclipse, everybody. So, and you can see the camera, stupid. The way it handles the camera in this app is so ridiculous. It's constantly trying to autofocus, and it's really annoying. And now the wind is really kicked up, so it's wiggling like crazy. So, but hey, you get to see it. It's live, and it's fun. So like I said, I'll be doing more of these off and on. I'm definitely going to have to buy a white light filter first for my other scope. Just it's a hell of a lot more portable than this. And with the motor drive, I don't have to keep moving this damn thing to counteract the Earth's rotation, just like I did right there. And then I'll eventually get a damn H-alpha filter as well. H-alpha scope. Because the dedicated scopes end up being cheaper than buying a high quality filter by itself. Because they're just small scopes. I mean, they're just aimed at doing just that. They're unitasking scopes. That's all they do. You don't have to, once you've got it set up, you don't have to adjust anything, attach anything except for a camera. It's just plug and play. Whereas if you have a compound system, it's a big pain to have to adjust this, tweak this, write down the settings for this one on this scope with that scope, and it's also, like I said, a lot more money when you have the parted out scopes like that. All right, well, with that coming to a close, and I got to go do some more stuff. Thanks everybody for showing up. Again, it's truly a half-assed show because everything fell apart, but I was at least able to still get an image on the stream, talk about some shit. Hopefully you guys found that interesting. And you got to see a sunspot group, and you got to see the little bite taken out of the sun going away. Good stuff. So I'm going to call it there. Thanks everybody. I'll see you soon. Keep watching the skies.